Hi, welcome to Online Yoga School. I'm Steph, and as part of our Yoga Foundation series, we're working on Sukhasana today, the easy pose. And in Sanskrit, Sukhasana it is translated loosely as easy pose. But the way that my teacher always taught me is that it's not always easy. It's more the pose of ease than it is the easy pose. So let's get to it. We're going to come onto the mat into a seated position. And you cross the legs for Sukhasana, the pose of ease. And so it's almost like crisscross applesauce style. And traditionally, the yogis would say you want to bring the ankles underneath the knees and then flex the feet. But before we even start there, we really want to pay attention to what's going on in the pelvis. So the first thing we're going to do is move all the fleshy stuff out of the way so that the sit bones can really connect down into the earth. And then from that space, we're going to sit up nice and tall. So we're thinking about heart over pelvis, crown of head over heart. Let the shoulders kind of roll down and relax. And then notice how you feel. So a lot of times what happens, if your knees are higher than your hips, you may want to sit on props here. And what that does is it gives you some space in the pelvis so that you're lengthening through the spine. Because when you have tight hip flexors, tight hips, and the knees are up high like this, sometimes what we see is this rounding. And no matter how much we try to force open here, the rounding is coming from this pelvic tilt because the shortness in the hips is going to cause this tightness in the hips causes this rounding here and this tilt in the pelvis. And so there's no way we can get the length we want from this space right here of a pelvic tilt. So if that happens, you have options. You can sit on a block if that feels good for you. Or you can sit on a blanket or a stack of blankets. And that is usually my jam. So I'll show you how that looks. If you're going to do a stack of blankets, you just want to align the blankets so that you have an even foundation. And then you would come to sit on top of the blankets. So first things first, and the sit bones are on the blankets, but the legs are on the mat. So then you come back into that crisscross applesauce once you get your pelvis adjusted the right way. And if you're not feeling that pelvic tilt, you may not need props. You know, whether or not props are right for you in Sukhasana, the easy pose, is totally a personal choice. So think about the foundation here. Just take a moment, root down, move the fleshy stuff, get the sit bones connected to the earth or to the props that are beneath you. And then notice what parts of the body are grounded to the earth, right? Maybe the outer ankles, maybe for some of us, the legs. So just notice what's grounded and what's not, and really root down into those places. Flex the feet a little bit, nothing too exaggerated. And know that if your ankles are not under your knees, that's okay. For some people, Sukhasana is more like this, and the legs come out a little bit further in front. You really want to listen to your body here because we're all built differently in the hips and in the knees. And we've all had our own, prior bodily experiences, injuries, and other things that create habits in the body and create shapes that we're comfortable in. So listen to your own body, root down, take a slight flex in the feet. And then from this space, we're just going to get a little comfortable. So maybe take a couple of shoulder rolls back and just notice that sense of the shoulders gliding down the back and having a little bit of an openness in the chest. And at the same time, we're going to knit the ribs here. So the ribs aren't going to pop out. We're not in a back bend, and we're going to engage the belly slightly. So lift the navel, knit the ribs, and we feel the abdominal wall turn on just the slightest bit. And then we sit up nice and tall, shoulders relaxing down the back. And there's that pelvis, heart, crown of the head thing going on, right? So the chakras are all aligned and we're sitting up nice and tall. And then maybe begin to rock back a little bit, curl in on yourself, stretch the back. Notice how that feels. And then as you inhale, press the chest forward slightly, squeeze the shoulder blades together, turn the gaze up, and come into a bit of a back bend. So just a few cat-cows here. And why are we doing seated cat-cows in Sukhasana? Well, my friends, we're doing this because we want to get that sense of here's flexion, here's extension, and I want to be right in the middle, right? So within a yoga pose, there are certain alignment points or like loops in the body that we look at. And from this seated place, our foundation is going to be our sit bones, and we're looking at what's going on in the hips and the pelvis, what's happening in the knees and the shoulders and in the neck. And then we want to think about the ribs as well here. And so as we hit all of those alignment points, we want to find a neutrality. So we don't want to be in a pelvic tilt in either direction that would cause us to go into spinal flexion or spinal extension. So find that neutral place with the spine, and it all begins with the neutral pelvis, knowing that you may need props to make this happen. And from here, sit up nice and tall, and maybe sit here for 5 to 10 deep breaths. Inhaling in through the nose, exhaling out through the nose. And feel the prana moving freely through the body. There's something about getting the chakras all stacked up, knowing that the spine is in this straight line and energy is really able to flow through the body. And once we find that sweet spot, we notice that we're able to breathe with more fluidity, maybe breathe a little bit more deeply. And this, my friends, is Sukhasana, the easy pose, better known as the pose of ease.